Welcome to the hit podcast, H.I.T, Human Resources, Insurance, and Technology. I'm your host, Toby Kennedy. As always, we are dropping into your feed on Tuesdays with what I hope is a bite-sized, digestible, really well-curated set of the conversations, the happenings, the things going on in the space. This week's episode is brought to you by Montage Insurance Solutions. And without any further ado, I'm so excited to jump into this week's episode. I am joined by my friend and professional amazing person, Dawn Barron. Dawn, how are you today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you on. Thank you for being here. So, Dawn, I was actually thinking about this a moment ago, and I was like, I think we've certainly worked together at a few different companies over the years, and maybe 10-ish years of knowing each other in professional and personal friendship.
Absolutely. 11.
11. Oh, right on. Good. I was trying to think back and trying to get that done. Okay. What I want to do is maybe let's start by giving the audience a little bit of what your expertise is, what your background is, sort of what we're here to talk about today and why you're the right person to talk about. So, Dawn, maybe just give me like the highlights of your kind of professional tour and what got you in the chair today.
Well, let's see. I started off in safety, and that came from the demise of the construction, the construction apocalypse in 2008. Yep. And from there, I had to pivot quickly. Yep. And since I had been researching safety for years just from my own company, I decided to go into it and help others.
Meaning when you had this role as an actual employee and then as things changed, that's when you started getting the consulting.
Correct. Yep.
And then so specifically what I kind of want to touch on and talk to you about is I've seen you do firsthand, and again, several of the clients we've been fortunate enough to partner and you're there doing a great job with, sort of from an employer standpoint, from the client side, how can we talk about all the right practices as far as mitigating claims? So that's facilities, that's building out safety committees, that's safety teams, safety incentives. Talk to me a little bit about, kind of what you see as best practices. What are some of the things you've had success with?
Great points you brought up. I mean, those are, as a whole, those are the points I go to.
Yeah.
Safety culture, committees, everything you mentioned is like right on. Everyone knows how to push the paper and follow the regulations, but bringing it in and making it whole, like through and through, deep into the culture is a whole other level, right? And part of that is getting everyone excited. So how do you get everyone excited? Do you just send out a memo? You have to lobby. It's like a
lots of exclamation points.
Yeah, it's a marketing campaign. You have to get buy-in and get everybody excited and what do they get out of it? And so...
And when you say excited, are you specifically talking about maybe like an incentive program that you're rolling out type of a thing?
Yes. Incentive programs, committees.
Yeah.
A lot of times safety directors and managers are the only point person at the company. And if they're alone, the best way to get the culture rolling is to get everybody involved. Yeah. And then you have eyes and ears throughout the whole company.
So you're talking about maybe, and I'm maybe putting words in your mouth, but finding like little internal cheerleaders for the campaign at different departments.
Absolutely. They become your safety committee.
Yeah.
And so when you have messages and you want to launch different topics or health fairs, then you have extensions of you everywhere.
Yeah. So almost like these little proxies of you running all over it. Like
Absolutely.
I'm thoughtful of how when people are running for office, they've got like people stumping for them all over, some mayor and some governor and whatever, telling you about this other grander politician. So you've got all these kind of local level folks beating the drum beat, spreading the gospel for you. When you go to build those out, let me start by asking, how do you identify who's maybe the right fit and who's the wrong fit? Or do you just cast as wide of a net as possible? Talk to me about finding those cheerleaders.
There's several ways to go about that. And I do cast a wide net because some people are introverts and they don't want to talk. And I also have been, what I do ends up in HR and operations. So from an HR standpoint, I love to go meet everyone at all levels of the company. So the dishwashers and the sanitation team members, they're the best.
We should probably talk about that as you talk about dishwashers. So we talked a little bit about your construction background. What are some of the other types of companies you've worked in and around? And
so construction, food manufacturing, restaurants, service providers, subcontractors, and
which are lots of places I feel like that have kind of high claims frequencies, right?
Yes, yes. So I have high risk, high claim.
You've had to really kind of do these things. So I don't mean to digress on that, but just as you talk about dishwashers, it reminded me that I'm not sure I did a great job of fully fleshing out kind of all of your CVs. I'm just so excited to dive right into it with you.
Yeah.
But it's okay. So you're finding these people, you're talking to them, and even like you mentioned, some sort of like, you know, everyone listens to what is it? We FM, right? What's in it for me, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's the radio station they're listening to in their head. So how do you talk them into joining?
So what I do, I just happen to be a instructor for the Red Cross. So, hey, if you join, you get to get first aid trained, CPR trained, and they get to keep that for their resume. That's not just for what they're doing.
Right.
They can build their skills. They can get trained in bloodborne pathogens. So I offer... So they have meetings every month, and then every quarter, it's a training for the what's in it for me.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting note, because whether or not everyone out there might be capable of doing some version of a training, even just coming at it from the resume builder standpoint is a smart sort of an angle where you talk to people about being able to add this to the value you bring to our company today and the value you bring to your CV.
Yep, and of course, food.
Yeah.
Always lunch and learns are the best.
That's right. Yeah, you get
food.
the broker involved, and we'll bring out the snacks and sandwiches and things like that. Okay, so that's a little bit about, so philosophically speaking, when you come into an organization and or you're speaking to someone whose role it is to mitigate claims, one thing you're saying you start with is you build this sort of safety committee, right? And you cast this wide net, and the aforementioned ways are ways that you bring people in. Is there a right number of people? Is it the more the merrier?
I think it depends. I don't know about the more the merrier, but you still have, say some want to be involved, but they don't really want to be on the committee, but they end up creating relationships with you anyways. And I had plenty of people just, come to me and offer, especially near misses. Near misses are the best. That's where the incentives are, in near misses.
Meaning an incident or accident that almost occurred.
Almost occurred, and they reported it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times people go, oh, you almost slipped. And then they go, we don't have to report that. You almost slipped. But it would be great if you did, because then we can...
Certain corners are an almost miss left, right, and center. Now I add a mat to that corner is what you're saying,
exactly.
Right?
What's the root cause? Let's get it taken care of if there is.
So you ask your eyes and ears to report near misses.
I love near misses.
Interesting. Yeah, what a great thought. That's a great little nugget there. So, okay, maybe not the more the merrier, but there's some version of a right number. And of course, it obviously has to do with the size of the organization, right? And so you want X amount per N number of employees type of a thing. Is there any like thumb rule? You want like at least one at each site or one in every shift, or? I
would say one in every department.
Okay.
So if it's a food manufacturing plant, maybe supply chain, maybe logistics, assembly, that would be an example of.
And what do you think is the right cadence for getting these folks together? So let's say you've got your X amount of safety people in each department. You've done a really good job of building that. Should I be emailing them as a committee on like the sub email chain, or getting them all together, even on maybe like a Zoom once a week, once a month?
Once a month.
Once a month.
I would. They are so busy, and they're volunteering their time to do extra. And also, most businesses they have a time crunch. Things have to get done.
Can't be pulling everybody off the assembly line left, right, and center.
Yes. So if everything is laid out for them, you launch the topic, and each week they can present to their teams a quick tailgate meeting of the topic, and then those topics build on bigger topics.
Yeah.
And then you can have evacuation drills from those.
So once a month, you'll get your folks together, but on a weekly basis, they're doing little, mini fireside chats. Unpack the topic. What's an example? What might that be?
A topic might be like to build on an evacuation. So then you're going to learn about fire extinguishers one week. The next week, where are all your exits? The next week, where are your first aid stations?
And how are they getting trained on that? How do they know where that's the once a month meeting, and then you lay out the next 4 weeks or 5 weeks of whatever?
And it's like the safety toolbox in a box. Yeah. So everything's there for them, even the floor plan to the building.
Yeah.
And it's quick. People do not have, that's the first thing everyone says. We don't have time for safety. Yep. okay, well, micro learning,
Yeah.
here we come, you know?
Well, safety reminds me of health, where they're like, I don't have time for my health. I go, you either have time or you'll have to make time.
Right.
This is
Right.
This is going to be imposed upon you one way or the other, right?
Right.
So we don't have time for 300x mod, right?
Right.
We got to get this thing down. Okay, so I'm loving this, and I don't mean to keep it so linear. So if we want to dive down bunny trails, you let me know. But just as like you're coming in, you're consulting, you found your little cheerleaders, you build them up. You know, you have maybe month by month or quarter by quarter kind of mega topics that you've broken into these weekly little bite-sized trainings that you're coaching everybody up for. When you say quick and micro learning on these monthly get-togethers, about how long are your monthly safety committee meetings aiming to be in an ideal world?
In an ideal world, an hour.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
People lose focus and they're tired, and
and that's enough time, though.
That's enough time. I can get them trained in an hour.
There you go. Okay, cool. How about, so when you're the point person for this, are you checking in on those weekly meetings with those weekly folk? Hey, how'd your fire extinguisher thing go?
Yes. So then there's a document storage where they're uploading who, you know, the team members are signing in, so they're uploading the topic. Sometimes there's quizzes, sometimes there's not. I don't think you have to have a quiz every time.
Sure.
So they're uploading the document storage. I can see, and I am a geek this way. I will walk around and just ask questions.
Yeah.
Hey, do you know this?
Yeah.
You know?
Well, they're done like a pop quiz to make sure, like our CEO does it all the time. She's like, do you know our mission statement? Like, yes, we
exactly.
do.
Exactly.
But it helps. And it's just culturally, it can be fun. It doesn't have to be like, you know, you're some hallway narc, like yelling at people. You're just kind of asking and making sure.
I would love safety to be looked at in a fun way.
Yeah.
It's a serious subject, but I think you can make it like, oh, come on, we have to do this.
I mean, that's a decent on-ramp to the next question. How do you make safety fun?
By just doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And near misses, you report it out of the blue. Oh, you know, maybe there's a Starbucks card. Maybe it's a great book.
Yeah.
Maybe it's time with the CEO, you know, for lunch.
Yeah.
There's different things that you can do.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, cool. So that's a little bit, I think, from like building the safety committee, and you're talking about these meetings and some of these incentives. Speaking of incentives, do you have thoughts on kind of more formal safety incentive game, like a safety bingo, for example, or some version of like an official, hey, or a X days without accident thing? What are some of your thoughts on those?
So I like still, again, to focus on the near misses, because the accident freeze, they tend to, people stop reporting.
Right.
I want to win.
Right.
Are you sure you're okay? And then they just kind of, they may skip the reporting. So I do like to just focus on the near misses, and equipment reporting goes with that. Yeah. And we could get into, you know, a little bit of how the facility integrates.
I'd like to, please, if you don't mind. Yeah, let's talk about facilities and integration and equipment.
Yeah. But just to back up, I love passing out cards and giving them to the safety committee.
Yeah.
And when you notice someone's doing a random act of kindness or reporting anything, whether it's equipment failure or a near miss accident, give them this card.
So these are like a raffle of some nature, and or even like an actual $5 Starbucks card sort of a thing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And that makes things fun.
It does. Yeah. We've done this like safety spot program where same sort of a thing where, because there can be some negative incentives with the 0-day accident, just like you said, now there's pressure where it's like, hey, you didn't slip. You understand me? I want that pizza party, buddy. Get up, right?
Yeah.
So what you can do is maybe like you get a little Dalmatian called spot, safety spot, right? And spot someone doing a good job. And so anytime someone's doing a safe act, right? Mopping up a spill, getting the right ladder instead of jumping on a chair to change that light bulb, doing some of those things, I can catch you in the act. I can spot you. Go grab a raffle ticket, and both the spotter and the spottee, you throw it in the box, and now you're randomly drawing raffles. So it's like, hey guys, permeate this idea of everybody being on the lookout, permeate this idea of good, safe, smart behavior, and that's what we're going to reward, kind of carrot and stick, more carrot type of a thing.
Absolutely. And you could tell when the change happens, because you get there and nothing, no one's talking, and you know, give it a year and everybody's calmly asking to speak with you, and they're not afraid. And
give it a year is such another important thing, because we've been in this boat, and I know actually literally you and I have been in this boat, where I think people maybe don't understand. A lot of this boils down to the amount of accidents you have. And the amount of accidents you have goes directly into your experience modification. Your experience modification is the calculator used to multiply your premium. If you're supposed to be paying $1 million, but you have an X mod of 0.8, you're going to pay $800,000. If you're supposed to be paying $1 million, you have an X mod of 150%, you're going to pay $1.5 million. So there's real money on the line, but the X mod calculations don't take the current year. They go a couple of years back, year 2 and 3 and 4 prior sort of a thing, and maybe even, a couple years beyond that, depending upon what's on kind of the incident reports there. But you have to do these things, excuse me, you have to do these things for a while and year in and year out, because not only do you start to defrost the mood in the room, but you literally won't even see difference on your X mod for a year or two or so at best.
Absolutely. And the first group where I first met you that I worked at, it was the first time I had been in the workers' comp arena, and we got the letter and it said the X mod had reduced. And I remember I didn't even know what it meant. And I called you and Lisa, and you guys told me, and we were like, yay!
The fruits of our labor have come. That's right. That's right. So, okay, I do want to, because we were just talking about, it takes a year for people in the room to defrost a little bit, and that's when you're building your committee from a facility standpoint, from an equipment standpoint. What are some of your thoughts for folks out there listening that are thinking safety?
I think facilities and equipment go hand in hand. There could be a knob missing on a stove. Just a knob. Oh, the knob fell off. No big deal. What does this have to do with workers' comp? Oh, well, get your finger stuck in it and cut it. And
then come back to me and let me know what it has to do with.
Right. And then you cut it. Just put a Band-Aid on it. Oh, you didn't know it was going to get infected, did you, from not reporting? So there's,
the finger cut infection story is legendary in the workers' comp realm. But it's a good indicator of the idea that, in the moment, at the time, every little bit can turn into something. And so just a universal diligence is so important.
Absolutely. And we'd rather pay, quick first aid claims than the big, we neglected it. It's not a big deal. Push it to the side. And next thing you know, you got X amount of
and they're upset, lawsuit. So now they've got the lawyer. That's exactly. Right. That's right. Talk to me a little bit about your interaction with employees and claimants and your approach, because we were just joking about a disgruntled employee calling a lawyer, but that I think is something that, as an employer, if you do it worse, they're more likely to do, and if you do it better, they're less likely to do.
Absolutely. I think there's an opportunity for best practice there. Personally, I love making digital or hard copy cards. And if the injury is going to require lost time and there's no way around it, then I check in with them. I think the worst is when a team member just has no idea what's going on. They're scared already because they're hurt at home. Maybe they went through surgery, maybe they didn't, but they're at home with the not knowing, and it is a very insecure feeling for them.
I can't punctuate that enough. A few weeks back, we had an attorney on, we were speaking a little bit about workers' comp, and he was saying, I feel bad when employers think, oh, this person's on claim, therefore I need to gag order and keep away from them. And it's like, no. Everyone that's doing it is encouraging you to keep contact, reach out, be sweet, be kind. Right?
Yes, and it changes everything. I know that we've had in my past a couple of potential large lawsuits, and just by helping and helping the team members with their rights and giving them, what services and benefits they have, letting them know what they are has just turned them around. They just don't want to feel alone and neglected. That's it. I'm
going to take us down a rabbit hole, but there was some study about doctors and malpractice suits, and their bedside manner was more indicative than their actual ability to diagnose or misdiagnose. So people were less likely to sue their doctor for malpractice if they were just nice and they had good bedside manner and they were just sweethearts. And I think as an employee, you're less likely to get disgruntled against your employer if, hey man, I really had this thing happen, I'm really hurt, and now you're treating me like X or like Y with a pinch of sugar.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It goes such a long way, a quick phone call. And then after, after they're getting closer, you can see from your reports what percentage, they're into in their recovery. And when they get, especially towards the end, we're looking forward to seeing you.
Speaking of seeing them, maybe they come back on some version of modified duty. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts on that.
I love return to work.
Yeah.
I think it's a win-win for the team member and the company.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to experience so much lost time,
Yeah.
create a return to work program.
So you're an advocate for, modifying the duty whenever possible. And I mean, really try and find a way to say, I can't modify the duty.
Absolutely. We get very creative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's always so many things to do.
Yeah.
If someone can't walk, they can. Everyone needs scanning and shredding. Everybody. And instead of, hiring out another company, have, somebody on modified duty take care of it. Why not?
So I think that we've sort of covered, hey, when Dawn gets there, she's going to look for the cheerleaders, build the safety committee. Here's the cadence on the meetings. Here's best practices on the thoughts of the meetings. Let's talk equipment, facilities, bring a lot of the stuff together, return to work, claims management. When you're looking from a data standpoint and you zoom out, you're the one in charge. I've seen you doing it. So this is all your people out there kind of running around doing your daily and legwork. But you now need to kind of sit back in the boss's chair, review reports, look at some of these things. What are the types of reports you like to look at? What frequency do you like to look at those? And what are you looking for in those reports?
I love to look at frequency and the days. So,
mean the days of the week?
The days of the week. Because at our first group that we worked at, I could tell you, for whatever reason, Friday night.
Everyone's getting hurt.
Friday night was we had the highest injuries
by far.
By far,
an outlier to the point where something's happening.
Yeah,
right.
And it's the same in facilities, by the way, with equipment breaking. So then I can go in and say, all right, what can we do differently? What is it? Is it extra people?
Yeah.
Is there something we need? Or extra mats? Remove the mats.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's remove the mats, not add them.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, whatever that root cause is, you can drill down by these injury reports that the insurance agencies provide.
Yeah, so that's the type of report you're looking at, and that's something you're looking for, which, again, I always thought was so great and smart, is to sort of, like you said, look to see what were the types of injuries and how preventable are they. And I think a lot of people get that one right, where it's like, all right, we have a lot of slips, trips, and falls. Let's figure out the shoes, the mats, et cetera.
Yes. Right? Then you go on to PPE and facility work, right?
Yeah. And so that's kind of looking at the types of injuries and how to prevent them. But the next layer of detail, like you said, is the timing of the injuries. And if there's something else going on to where it's like, if not majority, a plurality, which shouldn't be happening when it should be spread over 7 days, 40% of our incidents are on the same, 3-hour block.
Right.
And maybe that's a manager.
Yeah, exactly. You can really drill down and find a lot about what's going on with the operational culture just from a safety standpoint.
And how do you build and address the operational culture?
I work very closely with operations directors or VPs or COO, whoever it is I'm working with. And they're usually pretty on board with helping.
How do you work with them? What do you mean more specifically?
So they'll they'll invite me to their meetings to speak. They'll invite me to come in and do extra training. Yeah. So there's several. I have one foot in HR and one foot in operations. Always.
Yeah. Right on. Okay. So to keep to the kind of bite-sized, digestible timing format of this, I think we covered a ton of stuff in this tight time frame. So thank you so much for being here. Is there anything else, if someone's listening and they're like, hey, Don, I got tasked with this safety thing or building this safety thing, what maybe haven't we touched on that you'd want to give them just your 2 cents on?
We did cover a lot.
Good. Okay. Yeah.
We did
or
cover
words
a
of
lot.
wisdom or best practices.
Yeah, I would say, for some companies, they're afraid of safety or they just think they don't need it and someone can have it as a side gig. And if that's the case, you can reach out to a program or somebody like me, and we could put the program together and you can take it and manage it, just like we do the safety committee. Yeah. That works, with smaller companies or companies who might not be ready for
and that's
a
a role you play for employers, is to say, listen, I know you may not have full-time staff all over. You can bring me in as an outside consultant to do
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And if employers want to get a hold of you, may they?
Absolutely. They can call me, email me, and check out my website. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Well, Thank you so much for being here. It is such a pleasure to see you and to have you on. I just appreciate it so much. That is all the time we have for you guys this week here on the H.I.T Podcast. As always, follow us on Tuesday. Like, subscribe, share. Heck, tell a friend. And until next week, make this the best week yet.